Thor, god of war. Ragnarok characters. Norse mythology. Thor, Old Norse, RR, is the Norse Aesir God of thunder, lightning, storms, and strength. He is the son of Odin and Fjörgyn, husband of Sif, half-brother of Baldur, Þórr, Meili, Hodr, and Bragi, and the father of Magni, Modi, Thrúðr, and stepfather of Ullr. Thor appears in the true ending of God of War, 2018, and returns as one of the main antagonists of God of War, Ragnarok. Norse mythology. In Norse mythology, Thor is an Aesir god associated with thunder, lightning, storms, oak trees, strength, the protection of mankind, and also hallowing and fertility. Thor is described as a fierce, red-haired and bearded god who carries a menagerie of magical weapons, from a pair of magical gauntlets to a belt of strength. However, his most notable weapon is the hammer Mjölnir, which is powerful enough to level mountains. God of War Universe. Backstory. Thor was born to Odin, king of Asgard, and the giantess, Fjörgyn. He is a half-brother of Þórr, Hodr, Meili, Bragi, and Baldur. At some point in his life, he would marry Sif and sire a daughter with her. Thor also had two sons, Magni and Modi, both of which were conceived with an unknown Jotun, and had different mothers. Sindri commented this was a sordid story. Odin commissioned Bragi and Sindri to build a powerful weapon, Mjölnir, for Thor to use to protect Asgard. Both dwarven brothers would come to bitterly regret making the hammer many years later. At some point, Odin invited the stone giant, Þrúðr, to Asgard. After getting drunk on mead, Þrúðr was goaded by Odin into making all manner of boasts and antics, all for the amusement of the court. When Thor arrived at the hall, he was unamused by the drunken giant's threats, and proceeds to slam Mjölnir so hard on Þrúðr's head that it smashed to pieces, with chunks of rock ended up lodged in Thor's head. Startled by the face full of rock, he didn't notice Þrúðr's body falling on top of him. None of the Æsir in the hall were strong enough even to budge the corpse off him. Thor's sons, Magni and Modi, who at the time were no bigger than shrubs, would come to their father's aid and managed to lift Þrúðr's body off him while no one, except for Mimir, was looking. Magni would get all the praise from Thor for being blonder, while Modi became bitter and resentful towards his brother for not getting any credit for his involvement. After Odin was forced to flee Jotunheim when the giants discovered him trying to steal their secret knowledge of the future, he furiously ordered Thor to use Mjölnir to slaughter every giant in Midgard that he could find. By the time of Loki's death, Thor had already slaughtered most of the giants in Midgard, with the exception of Jormungandr, and earned a fearful reputation as the strongest Norse god in all the 9 realms. When the giant Thamur went to Midgard in order to search for his son, Þrúðr, Thor appeared and killed the stonemason by causing him to fall on his own chisel, and Thamur's gigantic body crushed the fishing village, which worshipped the Vanir god Njord. Thor would always act like he planned to make the giant fall onto the village and destroy it, although Mimir states that it was simply just a case of luck and called the god of thunder as the sweaty bawbag. Following the murder, Odin entered a bet with Þrúðr, who had disguised himself as a mortal, to improve the walls of Asgard within a near impossible span of time. Odin lost the bet and sent Thor to kill Þrúðr when he discovered stonemason's true nature as a Jotun. Unbeknownst to Odin, Þrúðr had placed a weakness in the walls and entrusted the secret of his deception only to Freyja for the preparation for Ragnarok when Surtur would arrive and burn Asgard to ash. The giant Thrym once stole Mjölnir and ran off to Jotunheim, while Thor, Mimir described him as the Thunder Lummox, was sleeping. Thor snuck into Jotunheim with Freyja into the wedding feast between her and Thrym. When the giant king revealed Mjölnir during the ceremony, Thor revealed himself, took back his hammer and began slaughtering every giant present for the festivities. Although absent in the main campaign, he is mentioned consistently throughout as a monster who slew every giant he could find in Midgard to satisfy his bloodlust. Thor is also mentioned to have fought the world serpent years ago during his massacre of the giants. But, instead of emerging victorious, the world serpent proved to be just as strong as the thunder god, leading to a stalemate. Thus, Thor was forced to return to his father Odin empty-handed. As a result, Thor and the world serpent have hated each other ever since. It is also said that their rivalry will not end until the coming of Ragnarok. Kratos and Atreus also meet the spirit of a former disciple of Thor, who desires vengeance on the god for wronging his family. After his father died, the spirit's mother built a statue of Thor to watch over his grave and were surprised when the Æsir God himself came to offer condolences. While they were initially thrilled, Thor took advantage of the family's hospitality. When the mother begged him to leave, Thor murdered her in a fit of drunken rage. The spirit, throughout his whole life, lived in grief until it turned into rage and hatred. Before he can leave Midgard to begin his quest for vengeance, he requests that the statue be destroyed, and any valuables in his father's grave may be looted with his blessing. In their boat, Kratos uses the man's story to remind his son of an important lesson: the lives of men mean nothing to the gods, recounting Kratos' own experience of being betrayed time and again by the Olympian gods. After the statue was destroyed and the father's grave was looted, Kratos and Atreus returned to the spirit to let him know. Knowing that his bond to Midgard is now severed, he gave the duo his gratitude before leaving, thus beginning his quest. When Atreus amazingly remarked on the spirit's bravery, Kratos called the spirit a fool, as he knew that going off to find and face off against Thor is really foolish, as the god of thunder is really formidable. After Modi fled to Asgard upon Kratos' killing of Magni, Thor was furious to learn of his favored son's death. Believing Modi had abandoned Magni and leaving him to die, Thor brutally beats him for his cowardice. Thor only physically appears in the game's true ending. During a dream about the future, years after the events of the game, Kratos and Atreus were sleeping. Thor arrives and summoned a huge storm outside their house, causing Kratos and Atreus to investigate. When Kratos demands he reveal his identity, Thor silently lifts his cloak, revealing Mjölnir as it emits electricity. The dream ends and is relayed by Atreus to his father after he wakens, theorizing Thor will come to avenge the deaths of both his sons and his half-brother Baldur. God of War, Ragnarok. Thor will return, corroborating with Freya, to seek vengeance against Kratos and Atreus for the death of Baldur and Magni and Modi. Appearance. Thor's full appearance is not fully shown in God of War, though he is seen possessing blue eyes, red hair, and a thick beard which seems to be braided, as mentioned in the Lost Pages of Norse Myth, Episode 4. He is exceptionally tall and muscular, roughly equal to Kratos in terms of body stature and height. He wears a black hooded cloak fastened together with a yellow leather cord and armor, the latter of which consists of a decoratively embossed dark-colored chest guard and matching vambraces worn over a long-sleeved shirt. He seems to have a cold-blooded and serious expression very similar to Kratos himself in the past. According to Mimir, Thor also has several pieces of the stone giant Hrungnir embedded in his skull. It is shown in God of War, Ragnarok that Thor's appearance is similar to what was shown in the ending of God of War, but that he is burly and thick-waisted, with a large, rather obese, but still muscular and heavily built figure, perhaps accurately depicting his description by Mimir as a fat dauber. He is unarmored across his bare chest and potbelly, but wears plated pauldrons and bracers on his arms and sports leather armor around his waist to protect his upper legs and hips. He also sports tattoos similar to, though not as extensive as, those of his brother, Baldur. Similar to Kratos, Thor bears a scar over his right eye. Although unconfirmed, this scar could be the result of Hrungnir's corpse falling on him immediately after his murder at the hands of the god of thunder.